All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. I am recording, like I said, for you guys who just popped on the meeting. This is Alyssa Palladino, our registered dietitian. Alyssa, how many years have we been working together now?
Like 6.
6? Okay, yeah.
Oh.
So we love Alyssa. She's done several of our webinars before. She does do consultations as well and metabolic testing for you guys who are here in Atlanta. And Alyssa also is a personal trainer as well. She graduated from Yale University and was working in the educational field. And then she kind of moved into her personal interest with health and wellness and pursued a career in dietetics. So she received her master's science and nutrition in dietetics from the New York University and completed her training here in Emory healthcare system in Atlanta. And she's been working as a clinical dietitian since. So I will kind of turn it over to her and have her take us through this webinar. Again, we are going to have some sections where we will hold for questions. So if you have them, we'll take them then. You can also put some specifics in the chat as well as we go along, and I can read those as we stop. All right, so take it away.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Amy, for that introduction. Let me know when you guys can see my slides.
You're all good, Alyssa?
Okay, yep. Great. So as Amy said, we'll be stopping at the section breaks to see if there's questions. When we were talking about this presentation, we really wanted to develop something that was practical and informative for those of you who are going through this 8-week program, weight loss program. But we are also hoping that it really empowers you guys with some information and tools that you can really carry forward. And then for anyone else who's interested in making dietary changes and not really sure where to start, we hope that it's relevant for you as well. So start smart, nutrition foundations and strategies for success. Our agenda for today is going to be fairly aggressive. Hopefully we'll get through it all. And if not, I can share the slides afterwards. So we'll start with some nutrition fundamentals, just kind of getting the lay of the land, macronutrients. Then we'll get into eating for weight management because there do tend to be a lot of misconceptions around that. And healthy eating and eating in a way that supports weight loss aren't necessarily always the same thing. We'll get into food logging, some guidance around portion sizes. Then we'll look at applying some these healthy eating principles into the restaurant settings and navigating eating out. And then again, time permitting, I'll share some of my favorite healthy hacks for those of you who are busy, which I assume, given that you work for Cox, is pretty much everyone on the call today. So starting with nutrition foundations, macronutrients. Again, this could be review for some of you who have been to my presentations before, but I think it's important that we all understand that all the energy, also known as calories, that we get from food and use to power our bodies, whether that's our brains or our muscles during exercise, come from one of the 3 macronutrients. So carbohydrates, protein, and fat. All 3 of them give us calories or energy. All are essential, meaning we have to get them through food. We can't make these compounds in our bodies. Macro means we need them in relatively large amounts. And for optimal health and optimal physical performance, we require a balance of all 3 each day. Now, each macronutrient plays a slightly different role, or actually a quite distinct role in food and in our bodies. We'll go through each one, starting with carbohydrates. We know that, in the era of low carb diets and keto style diets, carbohydrates have gotten a bad rep, but they really are important for a variety of reasons, including that they are a quick, easy energy source. They're the preferred fuel for our brain. So, we're working during the day, we're trying to stay focused, we're trying to be productive. Carbs really allow us to do that. And then they are also the preferred fuel for our muscles during exercise. When we eat carbohydrates, it directly impacts our blood sugar, which is just a natural process. That's how we get energy from carbs. And it's only really dangerous when it happens in an extreme way. That said, different types of carbs do have different effects on our health. So for overall health, we do want to focus more on our fiber and nutrient-rich carbs, while limiting our intake of sweetened beverages, pastries, sugary cereals, and candy and cookies. And I do mean limit, not eliminate, because as you'll kind of get a sense of throughout this presentation, really it's all about balance and moderation, not extreme measures or deprivation. So here's a list of some of our more nutritious carbohydrate food sources. Whole grains, which includes brown rice, quinoa, farro, barley, and bulgur, and many others. Whole wheat bread, wraps, and pita for making sandwiches. Pasta, which could be whole wheat, bean, or rice-based pasta. Fruit, so that includes bananas, apples, berries, oranges, whatever you like. Starchy vegetables, which includes potatoes, peas, and corn. Beans, lentils, and legumes. Oatmeal, and whole grain cereal. So these are all some really nutritious sources of energy-rich carbohydrates. The next macronutrient we're going to go through is protein. And typically people think of protein, they think of meat, and they think of muscles. And actually both those associations are correct. Meat is one of the food sources that protein is found in. And one of the roles of protein is to build and maintain our muscles. But there's lots of other roles that protein plays, including building and repairing all our organs and tissues, exercise recovery, promoting satiety and managing hunger. So really helping us feel full throughout the day. And supporting our immune system. For overall health, we want to focus primarily on our leaner animal-based sources of protein and incorporate some plant-based sources of protein to cut down on saturated fat intake. Ideally, to optimize the benefits of protein, both in terms of muscle building and hunger management, we want to spread it evenly throughout the day. So we want to include a good source of protein at each of our meals and snacks and really have those meals and snacks consistently rather than waiting long stretches of time between eating. Here are some food sources of protein. As you can see, protein is found in both animals and plants. So we've got red meat, we've got our poultry, which includes chicken and turkey, fish and seafood, eggs and egg whites, dairy products, so milk, yogurt, and cheese, beans, lentils, and legumes, soy products, which includes tofu, tempeh, and edamame. Those are the unprocessed versions. And then nuts and seeds are primarily a source of fat, but they do contain some protein. And I just want to point out quickly here with the dairy, be careful if you are limiting dairy and you are choosing dairy-free alternatives for milk, yogurt, and cheese to read the label and really make sure it is actually a protein source, because most almond milks or almond milk yogurts, cashew milk, oat-based milk, coconut milks are actually, if you read the label, they don't contain protein. So just know that. And potentially find the Greek style version, or some versions are going to be fortified with pea protein, or go with a soy one instead. Then our third macronutrient is fat. I always like to clarify here, dietary fat and body fat are not the same thing, right? So eating foods with fat doesn't make you gain body fat. As we'll see later in the presentation, over-consuming calories leads to body fat gain. But both dietary fat and body fat are important. So with our body fat, it provides insulation, protection for our organs and tissues. It's a stored fuel source, and it's important for hormone regulation, and that's true for both men and women. For dietary fat, we know it gives food flavor, right? It assists with satiety, so helping us feel more satisfied for longer after we eat, and then with nutrient absorption as well. So our fat-soluble vitamins, vitamins A, vitamin D, vitamin E, vitamin K are going to be better absorbed and better used when we're eating fat with it in our diets. For heart health, let's focus primarily on unsaturated fats, which are going to mainly be found in plants, and limit our intake of saturated and trans fats, which are mainly going to be found in animal products, fried foods, and processed foods. And just a quick note, omega-3s, you probably have heard that, it's kind of a buzzword. That's type of unsaturated fat, and it offers additional health benefits and performance benefits, specifically in reducing inflammation and cardiovascular health. So some of our healthy fat food sources, or food sources of fat, nuts. So that can include walnuts, cashews, almonds, pistachios, pecans, peanut butter, almond butter, your favorite nut butter, seeds, so things like chia seeds, flax seeds, pumpkin seeds, sunflower seeds, hemp seeds, avocado and guacamole, some of our favorite fats, olives, olive oil, and other plant oils, fatty fish. So this is sort of an exception to the plant versus animal rule, but fatty fish is actually a great source of those omega-3s I just mentioned: salmon, tuna, mackerel, herring, sardines, and then cheese and other full fat dairy products. So yes, that's going to be some saturated fat, but we're also getting protein. We're also getting calcium, which is good for bone health. So I count that on the good fats food source list. And then the last thing I just wanted to touch on is micronutrients. Remember, macronutrients we need in large amounts, and they give us energy in the form of calories. Micronutrients is just a fancy term for vitamins and minerals. So we need these in much smaller amounts, hence the term micro. They do not provide us with energy or calories, right? But they do play essential roles in our health, in our energy production, so allowing us to get energy from the macros, in metabolism, in exercise performance, and certainly in recovery from exercise. The best way to obtain all the vitamins and minerals that we need for optimal health is by eating a balanced diet. So not restricting food groups and really being as inclusive and varied as possible. When it comes to fruits and vegetables, we want to eat the rainbow, right? So we want to eat all the different colors because they each contain different antioxidants. And just know that if you are following a restrictive diet for whatever reason, there might be some key micronutrients that you need to supplement that might just be too challenging to get from food. So for example, on a vegan diet, B12 and iron are pretty hard to come by. If you're limiting dairy intake, you might be lacking a bit in calcium. And then vitamin D, depending on your geographic and demographic factors, like if it's the winter, you have darker skin, it can be hard to get enough from your diet, and that might be one that's worth supplementing if your levels are low. All right. So our next section will be going through eating for weight management, and I just wanted to check in and see if we have any questions so far about macro or micronutrients or food sources.
We do not on the chat, but anyone out there have any questions?
I do hope that's a review. For some of you who have seen me present before, it certainly should be, but always good to start out on the same page. All right. So we'll get into eating for weight management because, like I said, there are some different considerations when the goal is weight loss or fat loss versus just healthy eating. Difference is we have. Sorry?
Alyssa, I'm going to interrupt real quick as we conclude that section. We did have one in the chat. Should you limit fish intake due to mercury?
Yeah, so that's a good question. The American Heart Association recommends, if you are open to eating seafood, eating at least 2 meals a week with seafood as your protein source. And there's a good list, and I don't have it off the top of my head, but there's a good list about which fish are lower in mercury versus higher in mercury. And so certainly, you'd want to choose the ones lower on the list. I can't tell you off the top of my head, but if you want, I can grab that list after the presentation and shoot it into the chat box.
Thanks, Alyssa.
Yeah, because definitely it's not about limiting seafood intake. It's about choosing the fish that's naturally lower in mercury. Really good question. Okay, so the big difference if we're talking about eating for weight loss versus just generally eating for health is that we have to factor in calories. Like I said, calories are just a unit of energy, so they're not bad, they're not evil, they're nothing to be afraid of, but we do have to understand how they relate to weight gain and weight loss. So any change that we experience in our weight results from a change in our calorie or energy balance. So, and this is overly simplified because of course there's many different factors, hormones and metabolism and health conditions, but when calories in equals calories out, we're going to maintain our weight. That's called energy balance. When our calories in are greater than calories out, we call it a calorie surplus. That's when we experience weight gain. And sometimes it happens unintentionally and creeps up over time. Sometimes it happens on purpose because we're actively trying to gain weight. And on the flip side, if we're trying to lose weight or lose body fat, we need to create a situation where we're in calorie deficit. So calories in are less than calories out. That's how we see weight loss. And sometimes that happens unintentionally. But I would imagine that for the majority of folks on the call today, especially those part of this program, this 8-week challenge, the weight loss is intentional. Now, where this gets confusing is because there's a lot, we don't fully understand what falls into calories in and calories out all the time. So let me go through this and kind of clarify. Calories in is pretty simple and pretty straightforward. So we get our calories from food and from beverages. They're not sneaking into our body overnight while we're sleeping. We're eating them or we're drinking them. And remember, your calories can come from any of the 3 macronutrients: carbs, fat, protein. Calories out is where it gets a little trickier because most people just think about exercise. Okay, I need to burn off all the calories I'm eating. No, absolutely not. You can't, you shouldn't. That's not how it works. As you can see, there's actually 4 components of calories out. So the first is resting metabolic rate, also known as basal metabolic rate. We're just gonna abbreviate as RMR today. This is the majority of your calorie expenditure. It's the calories, we'll get into it, but it's the calories your body burns at complete rest without you doing anything, okay? And that's the biggest factor here. Then we've got activities of daily living. So how active versus how sedentary are you in your daily life? Are you sitting at a desk all day? Are you sitting on a long commute? Are you getting up and like doing, a physical job? Are you making efforts to take walk breaks? So those things can really be a big factor in how many additional calories you burn or not. Then there's exercise, just one factor, because most of us have like half an hour to maybe an hour and a half a day to use towards exercise, if we're lucky, right? So how can we really think that we're going to burn off all the calories we consume through exercise? No, again, we're not ever supposed to do that. So just kind of throw that idea out the window. And then finally, there's a thermic effect of food. So there's a little bit of calorie expenditure that occurs through breaking down food for energy, particularly with protein. So 4 different factors of calories out. And so that's why that balanced equation isn't always as simple as we think it is. Let's get into resting metabolic rate just a bit. Like I said, it's the amount of energy that your body burns in 24 hours just for survival. So like your heart is pumping, your lungs are exchanging oxygen, your blood is traveling through your body, your organs are functioning, right? So that's sort of a minimum amount of calories that your body is burning, even if you're not exercising or doing anything active. And it's the largest component of calories out. We don't really have that much control over it. It depends on our age, our gender, our height, our weight, our dieting history, our hormones, and so many other factors. We can estimate that number. There are some good tools and equations online where you can plug in age, gender, height, and weight and estimate your resting metabolic rate. Or like Amy mentioned at the beginning of the call, we do have a test that uses indirect calorimetry. So it's a breath test to actually measure your resting metabolic rate. So that's something for those of you in Atlanta, if you were interested in having that done, we could do that. There's a lot of misinformation and sort of myths around how to boost your metabolism or increase your metabolism. The only real way to do it is to build muscle. And that's because muscle is very metabolically active tissue. It burns a lot of calories just at rest. So if you are able to put on some muscle through lifting weights and eating enough protein and calories, that way you can actually see a little bit of increase in your metabolism over time. But on the flip side, we can decrease our metabolism by losing muscle. And unfortunately, we can do that by dieting or by doing too much fasted cardio or just various other mechanisms, including just aging. There is some natural age-related muscle loss that can occur, which means then again, we burn fewer calories at rest, and it can be easier to get into that situation where calories in are greater than calories out, and we see that unintentional weight gain creeping up over time. So just to clarify, when we're talking about eating for weight loss, we do have to pay attention to calories. We do have to create a scenario where we're in a calorie deficit. And please recognize that every single diet that quote unquote works does so by putting you in a calorie deficit. So that is true whether you're following keto, whether you're following intermittent fasting, whether you're following Weight Watchers, low carb, low fat, high protein, paleo style of diet. Each of these induces a calorie deficit, and this is why it promotes weight loss. So as soon as you're not in a calorie deficit anymore, you're no longer going to lose weight. There's no specific macronutrient composition that in the long term is better for weight loss than others. So what I mean by that is going super low carb, high protein, or going super low carb, high fat, or going super low fat, high carb. None of those different macronutrient compositions is going to really change how effectively you lose weight, except maybe in the short term. And similarly, you can gain weight by over-consuming calories from any of the 3 macros. So it's not carbs that make you fat, it's over-consuming calories from carbs. It's not fat that makes you fat, it's over-consuming calories from fat. So again, that's just something to keep in mind. Really, any pattern of eating that consistently puts you in a calorie deficit and you can stick to it, you're going to lose weight. So really figuring out, an eating pattern that works for you and works for your lifestyle that you kind of enjoy and that you can stick to long-term is where it's at. So with all this talk about calories, you might be wondering, do you have to count calories to lose weight? And not necessarily. Some people may choose to, and we will go through some food logging tools and why that could be helpful. But really my focus often as a dietitian is, instead of having people count calories, is thinking about making your calories count. So thinking about how much nutritional bang for your buck can you get from your food choices. The more you focus on foods that are naturally nutrient dense and minimize or choose less often foods that are calorie dense, particularly the ones that are calorie dense and low in nutrients, oftentimes the sort of calorie deficit sort of falls into place. So I just want to show you an example of a visual. On the left, we have a meal that's very calorie dense. So between that sweetened soda, the French fries, the hamburger, we're getting almost 1,300 calories in that one meal, and it's not even that big of a meal, right? We may not even feel all that full by it. We're also getting a ton of fat and sodium and sugar. Where on the right, we have an example of a nutrient-dense meal that actually is probably not enough calories for a lot of folks at only 320 calories, but between the grilled chicken breast, the roasted sweet potato, and the broccoli, we're getting a lot of nutrition for not a lot of calories. So if you think about that, getting more nutritional bang for your buck, choosing more of those nutrient-rich foods, sometimes the calories just kind of fall into place and will work. Just wanted to also clarify, I'm using the term weight loss. I think some of you, because this program is going through the fitness center and Amy is so good about educating people on this, really weight loss and fat loss aren't the same thing, even though we use those terms interchangeably. When we see our weight on the scale, we're actually seeing a number that reflects both body fat and lean tissue. So body fat, and again, some level is necessary for health, but too much can increase our risk for certain conditions, right? So the goal with weight loss is really to lose body fat while preserving as much of that lean tissue as possible. So our bones, our organs, and really that muscle. How do we do that? How do we lose body fat without muscle? Well, we want to create a modest calorie deficit. We do need that calorie deficit, but we don't want it to be extreme. Less is not more. We don't want to go and be eating so little that we're eating less than our resting metabolic rate and our body starts to compensate metabolically and sort of slow down the rate at which it burns fuel. And we want to be really consistent with that calorie deficit. A lot of times I see in my practice folks that are pretty consistent with a calorie deficit Monday through Friday, and then they're in a big calorie surplus on the weekends. And so that kind of undoes the deficit from the week. So that consistency is really, really important, unless you're going to be taking 2 steps forward and 2 steps back. Prioritizing protein. So like we talked about on the protein slide, we want to include it at all our meals, all our snacks, and really spread that protein evenly throughout the day, rather than say like, you know, oatmeal for breakfast, which is a carb, a salad for lunch, which is a vegetable, and then a giant steak for dinner, which is a lot of protein. Having some eggs at breakfast for protein, having some chicken at lunch for protein, and then having that steak at dinner. Do regular strength training and limit excessive fasted cardio, because in that state you could end up breaking down muscle, especially at higher intensities. I always like to kind of put a note. I know we are focused on weight loss or fat loss here, and certainly there are many health conditions, so diabetes, high blood pressure, heart disease, even some cancers that are associated with being in a higher body weight, but it's not cause and effect, okay? So there's actually a lot of research showing that intentional weight loss, if you go about it in using an unsafe method, or you do yo-yo dieting that ends up leading to weight cycling, so losing and regaining the same weight over and over again, that's actually more detrimental for health than just staying at a slightly overweight body weight. So just know that if you are making positive changes to your food choices, to your exercise habits, to your overall lifestyle, you can improve your health and lower your risk of these diseases, even if those changes have no impact on your weight. So like eating your vegetables, prioritizing protein, cutting down on, processed foods, moving your body every day, regardless of whether those changes lead to weight loss, you're improving your health and you're lowering your risk of disease. So I hope that's empowering. As much as we might aesthetically want to see our body size go down, from a health standpoint, the actions, the behaviors are really what's most important. And then just thinking beyond this scale, if we are looking to make changes to our food choices, it's what else are those changes affecting, right? So how's our mood? How's our energy level? How are we sleeping? How's our exercise performance? You might find that you're on a diet that's leading to weight loss, but all these other aspects of your life are negatively impacted. You're in a bad mood, you're irritable, you have no energy, your sleep is off, your exercise performance declines. In that case, let's reevaluate those food choices. The weight loss is not worth sacrificing everything else. Really making sure any steps you're taking towards a weight loss goal also support your mental and physical health. Avoiding those fad diets. I know they're tempting, but short-term diet, short-term results, and then we're back to that yo-yo weight cycling. So really trying to find a pattern of eating that you can follow long-term. it just really becomes part of a healthy, enjoyable, and sustainable lifestyle. All right, so that was a lot. Any questions? Energy balance, calorie deficit.
We're going to feed some from the chat here. For those who, and this kind of goes back into that MedGym that we mentioned, is there an equivalent for people to look for that specific testing method? I will drop in body scans. We do have them here in Atlanta, but they are throughout several different facilities as well. So InBody, that would be INBODY. That is going to give you that more specific look at what is your body made of. Like Alyssa mentioned, when you step on a scale, you don't know what is what on that. And that's what is so misleading about stepping on a scale. So just making sure that you do have actual data that is telling you the specifics on their InBody. But is there something like that on the respiratory part that people can look for, Alyssa?
Yeah, that's a really good point. So the InBody will show you body composition, right? So how much of your weight is muscle mass versus body fat. It will also give you a pretty good estimate of that resting metabolic rate. For the breath test, I think there's a way the machine that I have that I use, that's the MedGym. I think there's a directory available online where you can search for other providers that have that device. And there's a couple other ones that do it too, besides the MedGym. I think the Body Gym might be another one. So yeah, do a search for like MedGym providers or something like that. If I can find that, let me write down notes for what I'm going to be looking for. And I can also send you guys to where you can actually just like plug in and get a calculator. MedGym provider, and then I was going to find the Mercury, the fish with a Mercury list.
Yep.
Okay.
Then we have an about collagen supplementation. Is it beneficial, and how can we help increase our own collagen? I'll kind of phase this into, is this an adequate supplement also for protein specific?
Great question. Collagen is super trendy right now, and I will just say, like, I've looked at the research, and there is some compelling, it's still kind of new, and there is some compelling research around bone health, which led me to start taking it myself, which I'm like super anti supplement. I'm always food first. But I will say, if you're eating adequate protein, you're like from a variety of food sources, and you're getting enough and you're spreading it out, and it's high quality protein. So like soy and pea from plants, and like animal protein, egg, chicken, seafood, you're getting all the amino acids you need to build and repair muscle and the collagen in your body. So the collagen supplement is only a few specific amino acids that go into making collagen. So truly, it's really not a replacement for a full, complete protein, and it's probably not going to be that helpful if you're already getting enough protein. But like it is, if you go with a high quality supplement brand, it's pretty safe. It's not going to harm you. It's just you're better off actually consuming protein, a high quality protein with all the amino acids. And as far as optimizing your own production of it, and even how you use the collagen you get from, or the amino acids you get from food and from supplements to make collagen, is vitamin C. So making sure you're having like enough citrus fruit and vegetables, and like strawberries and mango and watermelon and broccoli and spinach and all those good for colorful fruits and vegetables that give you vitamin C. That's important for actually making collagen.
That's awesome. I did not know about the vitamin C part of that. So new knowledge there for me. We'll do one more here, and then we'll save the other two for the next break. Is there anything as far as macronutrients or micronutrients that you can link to those in the crowd that are in our menopausal areas that there might be an extra requirement for, or any big things to hit on there?
You know, there isn't really. I'd really say the same recommendation when you're going through menopause is going to be the same for anyone that's looking to like optimize their health and optimize their body composition at any stage. You know, prioritizing the more nutrient-rich carbohydrates and making sure you're getting plenty of protein. Because one of the things that starts happening with age is that loss of lean muscle mass, which slows down your metabolism, or basically the amount of calories you burn at rest. Yeah, the hormones play a factor too, but I mean, if you can maintain that muscle or even build muscle when you're going through that period by doing the strength training, eating enough protein, that's going to be probably the most powerful thing you can do. And then bone health too, calcium and vitamin D. We need that always. we certainly need that. As we produce less estrogen as we get older for women, we start to, lose that bone mass as well as that muscle mass. So yeah, calcium and vitamin D. And again, weight-bearing exercise.
Awesome. And that's for, I mean, female and males. Definitely, we all are kind of looking at muscle atrophy as we age. So always a good thing to do. Women out there, I will tell you, you will not bulk up in any means. We have certain hormones that, does not make that happen. So that is a telltale myth out there about bulking up as females. But Alyssa, we'll carry on and then we'll hit those other questions here in the next break.
Awesome, great, and that's so true. We are losing muscle and bone with age, so we can offset it with exercise and with food. But yeah, aging it's happening to all of us, right? Okay, so our next section, we're going to talk about food logging. So basically, like tracking your food. If we are working on any health goal, really, we manage what we monitor. We're trying to manage something. We're trying to manage our food intake. We're trying to manage, what we're putting into our bodies. We have to have some way of monitoring it, right? So there's actually a lot of research, and also my professional experience shows that food logging really does help people when they're working towards a weight loss goal, or really working towards any health-related goal that they're changing their nutrition to help achieve. So the first thing it does is increases your awareness. If nothing else, you're gaining insight into your habits and your patterns. It just, instead of eating mindlessly, you're now mindful about your choices, and you can kind of see, oh, this is what I'm doing, and this might be why I'm seeing these results or not. It provides accountability, right? So a lot of times we're going to think before we take an action if we know we have to record that action. And in doing so, it drives behavior change. So again, we're much more likely to make a mindful choice that supports our goals if we know we're going to have to write it down. And we're less likely to make those mindless, impulsive, or convenience-based choices. So we're driving home from work, we're hungry, we're tired. We see the Chick-fil-A or we see the Zaxby's and we just want to stop and grab something convenient. If we know we have to then log that, we might think twice, or we might go into Chick-fil-A or Zaxby's and actually make a choice that supports our goals, which we hopefully will have time to get into how to do that today. So how effectively, and I have to say, your food log is only as useful as it is accurate. So unfortunately, I see so many times people logging inaccurately and then getting this false feedback, and that's actually, I would say, more harmful, less helpful than if you weren't going to log at all, frankly. So it can be really challenging to accurately log not just the type of food, but also the quantity, so the portion sizes you're taking in, how the food is prepared, right? Like any hidden ingredients that might be used in the preparation. Is there, how much oil is there? Were there seeds or nuts on that salad? How many craisins, right? It's really hard to really do that and log it accurately. So you can get sort of a misinformed picture of what you're taking in. And research shows that nearly everyone, and this includes health professionals, unintentionally underreport their intake. So we all might see our MyFitnessPal feedback. I'm only eating 1,200 calories. I wonder why I'm not losing weight, but actually we're really consuming like 2,000. So with that in mind, with that in the background, let's take a look at some of the different ways that we can track, knowing that there is some value to doing it effectively, but there's also some, I guess, drawbacks. So the way that most people are commonly like used to tracking now, there's all these apps, right? So MyFitnessPal, Lose It, Chronometer, Fitbit. You guys probably know even more. So if you do this accurately, you get a really detailed report of your calorie intake and your nutrient intake. So you can see the breakdown of where your calories are coming from a macro standpoint. So how many of those calories are coming from carbs, protein, and fat. You can also see the micronutrients, like how much fiber did you get, how much vitamin C did you get, how much calcium. But it takes a lot of time and effort to do it effectively, and actually it can become sort of an unhealthy obsession for some. But the biggest flaw for me is that there's so much room for error. There's a lot of user data, like other users have entered into the system, that's just either wrong or incomplete. So you select that, you put that in your food log, you get this feedback that's just totally off. So you might select a food that is incomplete, so you didn't even know that it was a source of calcium. You might think you're not getting enough calcium, but actually you were. Or you're, picking some homemade recipe by somebody out in North Dakota, and instead of like your actual recipe or the meal you had at the restaurant. You're getting all this feedback about the calories, the protein, the fat, the carbs, the sodium. That's just totally wrong. So again, I think it's less helpful to have wrong info than to have no info. Again, if you log the wrong portion size, and that can be kind of tricky, not including sauces or condiments or cooking oils. Maybe you omit the bites that you take while you're cooking dinner, or that you eat off your kids' plates, or the unplanned snacks that you don't even remember eating. So just kind of know that you have to be really meticulous to make this work and have it be effective. And in doing so, it can become a little bit compulsive for some people. If that's your experience, you're not alone, for sure. There's another app, and again, there might be others, but one I'm familiar with that's called 8, where you're actually taking photos of your foods. You get like a visual food log. I love that because you're still getting all the benefits of the awareness, the accountability, insight into your patterns, without the tediousness of all those traditional tracking apps. But you're also not getting that nutrient feedback, right? You're not going to see how many calories you're consuming, or if those calories are coming from carbs, fat, or protein. But to me, the main benefit of tracking is that awareness and that accountability, which you absolutely will get from a photo-based app or any of these other more old school options. So just using a food journal or using the notes section on your phone or using a Word document. If you choose to go take any of these methods, try to include as much information as possible. So like the time of day, estimate the portion size, describe how the food was prepared, describe the food. Was it whole wheat bread or plain bread? Was it multigrain Cheerios or honey nut Cheerios? Was it a cup or was it 3 cups? Was it whole milk or was it almond milk? Trying to really include as much information as you can. Okay. So, and I'll just jump right into the next section before we pause, because it's sort of related that if we are trying to log our food accurately, one of the most important things we need to know is how much we're actually eating, right? So we can use various ways to figure out how much we're eating, right? Or our portion sizes. One is the food label. If you aren't in the habit of reading food labels, I would encourage you to get in the habit of reading food labels, not the front of the package words that are for marketing and are almost like more confusing to consumers, like gluten-free, organic, vegan, plant-based, keto-friendly. Ignore all that stuff. Look at the nutrition facts panel, see what you're actually getting. One of the things on the nutrition facts panel is the serving size. And so then you can see for that food what the serving size is, and you can compare what you're eating to what that shows. You can also weigh your food. Again, this is another area that can become a little bit obsessive, but if you're trying to get an accurate gauge on what you're taking in and logging it, you can weigh your food on a food scale. So like you weigh your chicken breast, you can see it's 3 or 4 or 5 ounces. Measure your food. So for volume, you can use measuring cups and measuring spoons. So maybe you're measuring out a cup of rice or a cup of cereal, or you're using a tablespoon for peanut butter or olive oil. And then you can log that amount. You can also estimate portion sizes using your hand or by comparing them to common objects. So those are 2 of my favorite ways we'll go through. First, I just want to show you on the nutrition facts panel. At the top, it says serving size 1 cup, 227 grams. So you're seeing both a volume-based measurement, the cup, and the weight-based measurement, the grams. So in this particular case for this food, which I'm not sure what it is, if you were to weigh 1 cup worth of it on a food scale, it would weigh 227 grams, which is about 7 or 8 ounces. But yes, look at the serving size. And also know that you don't have to eat the serving size. It's just a standard amount so that you get all this nutrition information and you know what it's related to. The portion is what you actually eat. You might eat twice this amount or 3 times this amount. You might eat half this amount, right? So your portion might be less than the standard serving, and that's totally fine. Also estimate, like I said, your portion sizes by comparing them to standard objects. Not all of these are super helpful, to be honest, but I do like the baseball for a cup. So a cup of fruit, a cup of cereal, a cup of oatmeal, a cup of rice, a cup of pasta, or half a cup. You could visualize sort of a traditional light bulb. That could be maybe half a cup of dry pasta, half a cup of dry rice, half a cup of beans, or half a cup of dry oats. That 1 ounce or 2 tablespoons, that's kind of a good portion size for like peanut butter or cheese. You can think about a golf ball. for 1 tablespoon, you can think of it a poker chip. That might be perfect for like oil, like olive oil or something. The cassette isn't super helpful, but the deck of cards for a 3 ounces portion of chicken or meat is pretty helpful. A checkbook for a 3 ounce portion of fish is pretty helpful. The compact disc or CD for the 1 ounce of deli meat is pretty helpful. Also, the 3 ounce muffin or biscuit being about a hockey puck. The thing that I would keep in mind about that is it's really hard to find muffins or biscuits that are the size of a hockey puck. So when you go out and you get a giant muffin at a bakery or in a Starbucks, right, you're probably getting 2 or 3 servings worth of that muffin. So just, some food for thought. And then my favorite way of estimating portion size is to use your hand, because you always have your hand. So the palm is a great way to estimate a 3 ounce portion of an animal protein. The fist is a great way to estimate a cup. The front of the fist is a great way to estimate half of a cup. The tip of your finger, of your pointer finger, is a great way to estimate a teaspoon. And then the top of your thumb is a great way to estimate a tablespoon. So this is definitely by far my very, very favorite method. So hopefully that'll be helpful to some. And then finally, my tried and true and always favorite way to talk about building balanced meals that are sort of automatically going to support your health and your weight management goals without having to weigh or measure and compulsively track everything is the plate method. So when you're thinking about a plate, think about including a balance of carb-rich foods, protein-rich foods, fat foods, and then plenty of colorful vegetables. You're going to stay satisfied, you're going to stay energized, and you don't necessarily have to weigh, measure, or track everything. Everybody's proportions are going to be a little bit different. Your portion size is going to be a little bit different because everybody's needs and goals are different. Also, you might be hungrier on some days than others. But if you think about this template, and I'll show you on the next slide, you can apply it anywhere, including restaurants, and really for any dietary preference. So if you're following whatever kind of diet you're following or any kind of foods that you prefer or don't prefer, you can make this template work and you can use it to navigate food forever. So on your plate, a balanced meal should have, first and foremost, plenty of colorful vegetables. If you're looking for working on a weight loss goal, maybe make half your plate vegetables. Speaking of like the nutrient dense, naturally low calorie foods, vegetables should be a prominent part of your meal. The carbohydrates, that can be anywhere from a half of a cup to half of your plate if you're training for like an endurance event, like a marathon. But that's going to be your energy source. That should definitely be on your plate. Protein to keep you satisfied and support your muscles. Typically, we would say that should be about a quarter of your plate, but it might be a little bit bigger depending on your needs and goals. And then finally, some kind of dietary fat, whether that's a little bit of oil to cook the vegetables, whether that's a little bit of guacamole in your burrito, whether that's a little bit of avocado in your eggs, but some kind of fat to help with satiety and add that flavor. So those are all the components, the building blocks of a balanced meal. And then we can apply that template in any setting we find ourselves, including restaurants, which is going to be the next topic. But I will pause now and see if we have any questions or comments.
So we had one left from earlier. And just like you were saying, flavor just now, does adding seasonings to vegetables or other things devalue nutrition from them? I will also add to this question, will heat, as opposed to raw vegetables, does heat break down nutritional value as well? So seasoning and heat.
Totally good questions. Depends on the seasoning. I don't think it would ever detract from the nutrition. Adding seasonings, and I don't know if we're talking about dried herbs and spices or fresh herbs and spices. Certainly those are only going to add flavor without any calories and actually potentially add some nutrition benefits because they're coming from plants. If we're talking about things like mayo or marinades or soy sauce or teriyaki sauce or pesto or Chick-fil-A sauce or whatever, most likely we're not going to be detracting from the nutrition, but we could be adding calories, probably are adding calories, and maybe they're not so helpful calories. So something like mayo would be giving us a lot of saturated fat. Some of the marinades might be giving us a lot of sodium or sugar, so not so great for blood pressure or blood sugar control. Not going to detract from the nutrition we're getting from those vegetables, but adding calories, which may then not support the weight loss goal as much, because remember that calorie deficit is still important there. I would say frying food is probably the least beneficial way to prepare it, just because it is going to add fat, and it's also going to increase certain health risks, different compounds that get created in the frying process. So that should definitely be like a less often way to prepare food. Cooking versus raw, actually, the one time I know that cooking would leach out some nutrients is if you're like, there's certain water soluble vitamins that you would lose if you were boiling food. So if you're like boiling spinach, for example, and you see that the water turns green, you are losing some of the nutrients that contribute that green color. It's a compound called chlorophyll. So like when you're then eating that cooked spinach, you've lost some of that particular nutrient. You're still getting all the fiber and the vitamin K and all the other good stuff. So maybe like sauteing it in olive oil instead of boiling it would, retain that green pigment and chlorophyll better. Certain vegetables, actually, certain compounds in certain vegetables are better absorbed cooked. So the lycopene, that red compound in like tomatoes, you actually get more out of it when you cook it. So like tomato sauce is a better absorbed and more potent form of lycopene than like raw tomatoes, actually. And then finally, the fat soluble vitamins, so A, D, E, and K, are better absorbed with fat. So even if you steam your vegetables, adding a little bit of olive oil or adding some nuts or seeds or avocado to them, adding that fat will help you absorb those vitamins better.
Fantastic. All right, last one here, and then we are going to kind of move on. I am big on the air fryer. I made some air fryer omelets or egg bites this morning. I think it's great and convenient. What are your thoughts, frying versus air fryer? Notes.
Yeah, I'm having a little bit of, I have so many clients and people I've met in groups that have the air fryer and just can't say enough good things. I don't have one myself, but like I wish I did. I give you the full stamp of approval with that. I haven't done research, so I can't say there might be some lurking, pitfall that I'm not aware of, but I would say it seems to be a way to make food really tasty without a lot of added fat or any added fat. So yeah, go for it.
So definitely air fryer over frying, because again, you're in the oil there. So air fryer for sure. And make sure, baking, always a great alternative, grilling as well. Try to limit those fried foods, but air fryer is a great way to get that crispiness without all the extra added fat there. So we'll continue.
Yes, and I'm a big fan of baking or roasting, so using a little bit of olive oil, sheet pan in the oven, grilling, like Amy said, sauteing, steaming. But yes, I've heard really good things about the air fryer, and you're not adding all that added fat that you would get with traditional frying. So yeah, it's definitely more calorie friendly and heart healthy. Okay, so in our next section, we're going to apply that plate method template to allow you guys to enjoy dining out. Because really, eating at restaurants or getting takeout, it can be really an important part of socializing. It can be fun. It's convenient. It gives you a break from cooking, or maybe you didn't have time to cook in the first place and takeout is your only option. You get a lot of different flavors that you might not know how to create for yourself. So know that you can go into any restaurant setting, pretty much, any cuisine type, and still make a choice that supports your health and supports your weight loss goals. You also don't have to, right? So sometimes, like when I go through what I'm going to recommend you guys order, applying the plate method to your favorite cuisines, you can also totally ignore this advice and just order whatever you want. You guys are adults, right? But I'm assuming that you would want some guidance. So like you go to Mexican, and instead of getting the queso and the chips, again, you can get that. But if you're trying to improve your health and you're trying to lose weight, here's what I would recommend instead. So fajitas are a great option, because remember, we want that protein, right? Which you can get from the chicken, shrimp, or the beef. The peppers and the onions give you that veggies. It's going to be cooked in a little bit of oil, or a lot of oil possibly, for your fat. And then you still get, as part of this balanced plate template, right? You still get to eat a carbohydrate, right? So what do you want that carbohydrate to be in the Mexican setting? We've got a lot of options. We've got some of the tortillas that maybe come with a fajita. We've got some of the chips. maybe we get a side of rice or beans. My recommendation would be to choose one and decide which one you want the most, right? Not all three. Again, you can choose all three, but if weight loss is the goal, probably not. You can also build a taco salad or a burrito bowl. I love to do this at a place like Chipotle or Moe's or Willie's. You can build it from scratch, so you pick your protein, chicken, beef, shrimp. A lot of them now have like plant-based proteins too, if that's your jam. You can do it over lettuce, tomatoes, onions, pico de gallo, as many veggies as you want. You can get on that bowl or salad. Then for your carbohydrate, you can top it with black beans, corn, and or rice, and then choose a little bit of cheese and or guacamole for your fat. So two really tasty, I think, options that are still balanced and calorie friendly in a Mexican place. For Asian, and again, I apologize because I know this term encompasses a ton of different cuisines. So we've got Japanese and Chinese and Thai and Vietnamese and Korean. This is obviously not just one cuisine. But in any of these settings, if you go with a lightly sauced protein-based dish, so maybe chicken, salmon, shrimp, tofu, or beef, you got your protein covered. And again, we want to go not with the breaded or the fried option here. We want to go with probably a skinless sauteed option. You can add volume and add nutrition by ordering an extra side of veggies and mix those into your protein-based dish. For your carbohydrate, typically you can get rice. Maybe the restaurant will even have brown rice available, which will give you extra fiber and extra nutrients. Again, limiting the fried foods, right? So the lo mein or the fried rice, probably not your best option. If you do find yourself at a Japanese restaurant, edamame, which is soybeans, is a really great way to get plant-based protein and fiber. And you can start with a seaweed or a green salad to get more veggies in. And then if you're doing sushi or sashimi, those are great examples of proteins that are also really good sources of omega-3 fats. Remember, they help reduce inflammation and promote heart health. Italian. So the one thing about Italian is that the pasta dishes are oversized almost always. So if we're making pasta at home, we can control the portions. We can stick to that 1 cup or 1 fist size amount. At a restaurant, we're probably going to be served 3, 4, or 5 times that amount, right? And we really are going to eat probably everything on our plate. So you can, split a pasta dish with someone, or see if you can order an appetizer dish and count that as your carbohydrate. But I would opt for a protein-based meal. So for example, maybe chicken paillard or some sort of grilled fish or lobster or something. And then pick your carbs. So something out of the bread basket. Maybe it's a small serving of the pasta. Maybe it's a couple slices of a thin crust pizza. If there is a whole grain option available, great, bonus. And then make sure you volumize with veggies. So usually the main dish will come with some sort of side vegetable, right? Like broccolini or spinach, but maybe you can get a double order of it, or you can also start with a green salad. The more veggies, the better, because it's going to add that volume, help you feel full, reduce calories naturally, and just be packed with nutrients. For Greek or Mediterranean, and again, this is a pretty broad cuisine, because we've got like Lebanese in here, we've got Turkish in here, and I don't want to be offensive or exclude anyone, but there's a lot of great just like salads that you can get in these type of restaurants. The Greek salad is one, but there's lots of ones that are made with like cucumbers and tomatoes and onions and are just like a nice light dressing. So lots of good ways to get vegetables in at a Mediterranean style restaurant. The pita, if that's being served, can be your carbohydrate. The hummus can be your healthy fat. For your protein, you can get kebabs or souvlaki. You can get that usually with chicken or shrimp or even beef. Usually that's also some additional vegetables will come with that. And just remember, if there's rice that comes with the dish, or there's potatoes that come with the dish, those are additional carbs. So you might want to think about, like, am I having the pita, the rice, and the potatoes? How many carbs am I getting? And then being careful with your marinades, your dressings. Tzatziki is one of my favorites in Mediterranean. It's Greek yogurt based. It's pretty low calorie, high protein, really yummy. So that's something you can enjoy liberally. And I should have mentioned too, with Mexican salsas, tomatoes and onions, right? So that's something you can enjoy pretty liberally too. Indian cuisine, for those of you who are interested in eating more plant-based, this is a great way to do so. So we've got some traditional meals, dal that's made from lentils, chana masala that's made from chickpeas, so great plant-based protein, lots of fiber. If you do want to have animal protein in the Indian setting, the tandoori style is like kind of like their version of grilled. Chicken or fish is great that way. It's charred, it adds a lot of flavor, not a lot of fat. There's going to be options with tomato-based sauces, so those are going to be your best bet versus the fried menu items. And then, similar to these other cuisines, there's usually multiple sources of carbs. So between the naan, the roti, the rice, just kind of be mindful about how much you're eating and maybe pick one. Steakhouse, this is actually one of the easiest places to sort of build a plate method meal. Whether you get a lean cut of beef, like round or loin, or even get grilled chicken or fish, that's an easy way to get your protein. You can start with a side salad, or you can order a double portion of the vegetable that comes with your protein. Oftentimes you'll have broccoli or spinach or asparagus at a steakhouse. There's usually an option for some sort of potato as your carbohydrate, or maybe there's rice. Or maybe it's someplace where you really want a piece of bread from the bread basket for your carbohydrate. And then just be careful, be mindful of the different toppings. So your sour cream, your butter, your cheese, maybe some bacon. Choose wisely. Decide which of those toppings is the most important to you. Burgers or fast food. Again, the beef, turkey, or bean burger, or maybe a grilled chicken patty. If you find yourself at like, a Chick-fil-A, that's your protein. So eating in a burger place or eating fast food does not have to mean throwing all your goals out the window. Lettuce, tomato, onion, so really adding those vegetables. Seeing if you can get another vegetable with your meal. So maybe a side salad, or maybe sometimes, the burger places have really good like side of Brussels sprouts or cauliflower or something that you can get. If you're wanting to add cheese to your burger, know that will boost the protein and the calcium, which are good for our health, but that'll also boost or increase the fat and the sodium. So maybe if we're looking for to reduce calorie intake, maybe we do skip the cheese. We can add flavor with certain condiments that are lower in calories, like ketchup and mustard, being mindful of the special sauces and the mayo. Thinking about, again, one source of carb. If you really want the French fries, maybe remember those are potatoes, so maybe you skip the bun and you lettuce wrap your burger, or you get your burger or your chicken over salad and then you still have the fries. If the fries are kind of like nah, then skip them, get a side salad, and keep the bun on your burger or your chicken sandwich. So that's kind of my strategy: is pick one carb. And decide which one is most important to you in that setting. And know that, French fries are fried, so they're going to be, additional fat and not so healthy compared to like a whole wheat bun, but you're still getting a balanced meal. Salad bar, or build your own salad shop. Those are everywhere, right? A lot of times they have the nutrition information available, so you can use that to help guide your decisions. But just as sort of a template, base of greens, volumize with veggies, make sure there's a lean protein on there, make sure there's a carb on there, or it's not going to keep you satisfied. So maybe beans or chickpeas, corn, quinoa, fruit. Be mindful about the high fat toppings, right? Maybe we want some nuts, some seeds, some cheese, some olives, some avocado, but maybe not all of them. And then be careful with the dressing too. So you can get it on the side. Maybe you can do a light dressing. Maybe you get olive oil and vinegar separately so you can control the amount. You use of each, but just know that a salad totally can be a template for a really satisfying meal, but it all depends on how you build it. Subway shop or a sandwich shop, again, super easy template for a balanced meal. The bread, the wrap, the sub, especially if you choose whole grain, that's a great source of carbs for energy. Really easy lean protein sources, your turkey breast, maybe some grilled chicken. If it's a mayo-based protein like tuna or chicken salad or egg salad, I'd be a little, cautious around that, just because it tends to then have a lot more calories than we maybe intended. Pile on the veggies. So as much lettuce, spinach, tomatoes, peppers, sprouts, cucumbers that you want in that sandwich or in that wrap or in that sub are good to go. A little bit of mustard or a little bit of mayo, if that's really your preference, just use less. For your healthy fat, maybe cheese or avocado. And then if you're someone who's used to having chips on the side of your sandwich, probably opting for fruit will give you more nutritional bang for your buck and prevent you from, fruit's carb, but prevent you from really doubling up on the carbs there. I'm gonna just, honestly, I have to skip through this last section because we are out of time, and I know you guys are just as busy as I am. But I will share share these slides with Amy so you can use them as a resource, just kind of some easy go-tos for breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks, and making use of convenience items when you're busy, just to make healthy eating and eating for weight loss a little bit easier. There's absolutely no shame in relying on convenience from time to time or all the time, because we all have a lot on our plate. It's hard to prioritize everything all at once. Takeaway tips, and then I'll see if people want to stick around for a few minutes worth of questions. More like takeaway messages, really. A balanced diet that keeps you satisfied and energized while also promoting health and weight loss should include all 3 macronutrients. So trying to get carbs, fats, and proteins on your plate, and plenty of colorful fruits and vegetables for those micronutrients, those vitamins and minerals. When it comes to successful weight management, you do have to be aware of calories, right? Calories in versus calories out, but instead really focusing on being consistent and making sustainable changes rather than trying to take an extreme approach, or even feeling like you have to count calories. But just be aware that ultimately, if you're trying to lose weight, you do have to put yourself in a calorie deficit. If you're not trying to lose weight and you're just trying to optimize your health, then you really can not think about calories, which is totally cool too. Tracking food intake, monitoring your portion size, these are very helpful tools when you are pursuing a health or weight loss goal. And again, the hand method is by far my favorite. So if that speaks to you, more power to you. Use that plate method concept. So, right, thinking about what's my carb, what's my protein, what's my fat, what's my vegetables. Anywhere you go, you can make that work for you, even at restaurants. And then, kind of taking some of the complicated confusion out of healthy eating. No, we didn't get a chance to really go through those slides, but sometimes we can make simple choices and take a convenient route, and that can just make it that much easier to make choices that support our goals, rather than thinking you have to spend all Sunday meal prepping in the kitchen. If that's not your jam, don't worry about it. There are other ways. Okay, so that's all I have time for today. I know we're even over, but I appreciate everyone who is still on the call, and for those of you who asked great questions along the way. Amy, do we have any more questions? I'm happy to stick around for a few more minutes.
Yeah, we do. So what about smoked meats and meals? Are charcoal or wood-burned smoked dishes healthy?
So from like a calorie weight loss perspective, yeah, it's like it's not like a preparation method that adds a lot of calories or fat. In fact, it adds a lot of flavor, which is awesome. But there is some research into just like the compounds that are created. And I'm not trying to freak anyone out, but there's some research into the compounds that are created when you're cooking meats for a lot of time at a high temperature that like maybe are carcinogenic, so cancer promoting. So again, it's not going to be a weight loss thing. It's going to potentially be what compounds are created during that cooking process that if consumed in excess could be carcinogenic. The FDA doesn't have like a firm stance on how much to limit or how much like to not have of that or that kind of thing. And it really, the dangers just seem to be in like rat studies. Like I'm not even sure there's studies in humans that support it, but I can't just give like the 100% clean stamp of approval without addressing that. I can also try to find some resources on that can help you make that decision for yourself.
Okay, and then how do you feel about fasting as a life change? I know we have hit some of these in previous topics and webinars that we've done. So Jerry, I'll be sure to send you a recording of Ditch the Diet. I believe we had that topic covered, but if you want to give a little mention of that, because I know that's another big fad that is out there. So
yeah, and the intermittent fasting, I mean, there's so many different forms of fasting that people are doing now, and there's different motivations. So if the motivation is weight loss, I know you mentioned lifestyle, because there is some sort of cellular repair that there might be some benefit to doing fasting. I mean, I'm still not convinced, but if the goal is weight loss, I really caution against any kind of extreme measures, including fasting, because it can, first of all, we know for muscle growth and maintenance, which supports metabolism, it's really important to eat consistently throughout the day, especially with protein and not exercise fasted. Also, if we are restricting food intake, into such a small window, it can mean that we get overly hungry, and that can actually lead to binge eating and just kind of messing up our overall relationship with food. And at the end of the day, it's still, remember, that calorie deficit that leads to weight loss. So if restricting your eating window to 8 hours or 6 hours or 12 hours helps you create that calorie deficit, that's the mechanism by which intermittent fasting supports weight loss. But if you can eat a calorie deficit over whatever window you want, it'll have that same effect. So it really is a tool at best, but it can become kind of a dangerous, not very helpful strategy for others. I'd be particularly careful too if you have any blood sugar issues or prediabetes. Not going really long periods of time without food is important to manage blood sugar and prevent hypoglycemia. So yes, in general, I would say skip the fad diets, back to balance, consistent meals, nutrient-rich foods, prioritize protein, prioritize vegetables, get enough sleep. You fast when you're sleeping. You don't need to fast during the day.
Any other questions? You can raise your hand and you can just take over the mic if you want. I know there was someone who had their hand raised, but anyone out there? No way. Okay.
I'm gonna stop sharing my slides. So Amy, are you cool if I send you a PDF of those slides, especially since we didn't get through everything?
And then go ahead, whoever has the question there. Yeah, that's fine. Alyssa.
I was just going to ask if that metabolic breath thing or whatever, since we're not local to Atlanta, is that covered by our insurance? Like if I was to go find someone near me to go do that at? Does that make sense?
Insurance, yeah. So I've had some clients that, I don't accept insurance, but I've had some clients where I can provide them with a super bill, and they've been able to submit to their insurance company and have gotten some coverage. If you find a provider that takes like an HSA card, you might be able to use that towards metabolic testing. I'm looking now to see if I can find a list of MedGem providers that I can send to you guys.
And so for our Cox people here, you can reach out to benefits manager Mary Groover. I don't know if she's on this call still or not, but that's Mary.Groover, Groover @coxinc.com. And they can get their team looking at that specifically, or just call Aetna, and I'm sure they'll be able to cover that as well.
Thank you.
You got it. And I saw your comment about potato chips. I'm a potato chip fan as well. Sometimes it's really a mindless thing with, our hands and snacking. So finding those things that you can enjoy, obviously pre-packaging some of those items so that you're working on the portion control part as well. There's nothing to say you can't have potato chips. I most certainly will buy potato chips, but I look for quality foods, looking at the ingredients list, like Alyssa said, looking for least amount of ingredients as possible. And then just making sure if you're dipping it in something that's high in protein, it's good as well. But there's nothing to say that is a bad food. So definitely enjoy those chips, just in moderation.
Portion them out, or buy the mini bags of them. Know what you're, maybe not have it smaller portion less frequently, but nothing is ever off limits completely. You notice I always use the term limit. I never use the term eliminate, because really all foods can and should fit. And the more we try to restrict something, the more, we want it. So yeah, figuring out how to have it, eat it mindfully, enjoy it. Yeah.
Rachel, in the comments also put a little bit of wisdom in here about trying to find something that is as close to possible, if you put something in the ground, that it would grow. So obviously whole food, something that comes from the earth, again, is going to have more micronutrients in it too, and whole food is great. But again, not restricting yourself to where you can't have some of those more processed or comforting foods. Again, everything in moderation. I know your big thing, Alyssa, is food is comfort, and absolutely we deserve to feel comfort in some of those things. It's not shameful or guiltful, indulgent. It's just, again, being mindful in moderation.
Yeah, that food is fuel for our bodies, but it's also a source of pleasure and socializing, and it can be comfort. And so just to kind of acknowledge all those roles that food plays in our lives, and we find ourselves making choices that don't support our goals, instead of like being critical of ourselves, get curious, like what's going on emotionally or mentally, or that's leading you to make those choices, and then finding some other way maybe to take care of yourself. I just put in the link to the list, the Mercury and fish, like the list of highest to lowest. So you can choose the ones that are lowest more often. That's the recommendation. I can't seem to find the directory for the metabolic test providers. I'm not sure why. I thought that was something that I knew was a thing, but sorry about that. Can't find that.
No worries. Well, I guess we will kind of wrap it up here. If there's no other questions, you can always reach out to Alyssa or myself as well.
Yes, if anyone wants a little bit more guidance figuring this out, happy to work with you. That's a BMR, RMR kind of calculator. That's a good tool. Since if you can't find somewhere to get your RMR measured locally, I'll continue to look into that, Amy, and I will send these slides. And yeah, hopefully you guys found some takeaway that was useful, informative, and yeah, take away.
And we will definitely be shooting this out. You guys give me some time to get this uploaded on our site so we can give you a link. And then we'll also send you the deck slides as well, so you can have them. And
sorry, I just wanted to cut it in for a second. Not Everlywell. No, do not go with Everlywell. The test that I'm talking about is a breath test. It's something that has to be done in person. It's measuring carbon dioxide to oxygen exchange. So yes, that's very different. The Everlywell is not evidence-based. I would stay away from the food sensitivity test. Sorry, and I don't have anything like a vendetta against. Their products are not evidence-based, and they often lead to people overly restricting food intake without needing to. So yes, that's different.
again, use that BMR calculator that she left above. That is great start for you guys. And then those specific testing, again, based on your actual body, you've got those in bodies that are really around a lot of studios around the nation. You have an in-body here in Atlanta that we can do the testing for that. You have MedGym with Alyssa here in Atlanta. Also, again, those are just a little extra step. It doesn't mean that you need to scientifically have the exact, to the calorie point. So know that that's okay to not have those tools. Again, it is something to work with and know more specifically about yourself. But yeah, okay. Well, thank you guys so much for joining.
This topic forever, but you guys have been a great audience. Amy, thanks again for getting this all set up and recorded. And yeah, we'll hopefully do another one soon.
Yes, sounds great. And if you guys have any topics or specifics that you guys would like us to cover, please send me an email. We love having Alyssa and diving deeper into some of these topics. If it's something we've already covered before, I'll shoot you the video for one of those. And yeah, we'd love your feedback. So feel free to send me an email. It's amy.bush@coxinc.com. We'd love to have you in the program. If you also want to sign up, it's not too late. It is day 2. So you can definitely still sign up for that 8-week program. Accountability is what we're focusing on. Again, thanks so much, Alyssa, for being with us today. We appreciate you as always. And yeah, have a great rest of your day, you guys. We'll see ya.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you, Amy. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.